Today is episode 10, and we're going deep with the power of self talk. During any given day, we have recurring thoughts. We think about the same thing over and over again. The more we think about the same thing, the more we begin to believe it. The more we begin to believe it, the more we really look for evidence to validate that belief. And all this happens in our self talk. What are your thoughts? It is simply this: the private conversations we have with ourselves, the ones that usually no one else knows about but you. In the last episode, we talked about the silence and the noise in and around us and its persistent influence on our lives. Today, we're going to continue the conversation with silence. And here's the topic: is silence golden or deafening? Is silence golden or is silence deafening? This podcast was birthed out of silence. The whole series, every episode was birthed out of silence, is still being birthed out of silence. In the silence, we hear our thoughts loudly. There are two well known phrases we've either heard someone say or we've said it ourselves. Silence is golden, silence is deafening. What does that mean? Our self talk steers us in a direction. Negative thoughts take on a downward spiral, positive thoughts take us on an upward spiral. And positive thoughts, we want to think of positive thoughts as the silence is golden and we are on an upward spiral. When we think about negative thoughts, is it deafening? But today we're going to talk about the pros and cons to both negative and positive thoughts. Some thoughts serve us and some thoughts can harm us. Sometimes when we have positive thoughts, we live in oblivion to what is real. We cannot see things that we need to maybe change about ourselves because we are sometimes too hopeful, too optimistic, and we forget about areas that we need to work at. And when we look at the negative things, instead of thinking about it as always negative or a downward spiral, thinking about negativity or those negative thoughts as reflection time. How am I reflecting on what didn't work or what didn't go right? Some thoughts serve us and some thoughts harm us. Some self talk serves us and some self talk harms us. Only you have the power to change the direction of your thoughts, to hope for what is better versus what is dismal. Is silence golden or deafening? We want what is better. We want things to work out in our lives. We want to get up every morning without things that cause us stress. And the only way to do that is through aspirational thinking, having a vision for what you want your life to be. That's obviously positive self talk. You may say, hey, Chloe, easier said than done. Getting up every day and thinking aspirationally and, oh, this is what I want, and just being positive about what I want. So here's what I'm really saying: you need some negative self talk. Let me talk about what that means. If you think about negative self talk, it could sound like, this is not working for me. This is not working out. Why isn't it working out for me? Why me? Is silence golden or deafening when you have these self talk thoughts? Right. When you stop, you actually access the silence and you have a heart to heart with yourself. You have to have that heart to heart with yourself. And then maybe you will be able to answer these questions in the silence. Like, why isn't this working out for me? Being able to take a moment in that silence and stop. Why isn't it? If it was working out for me, what would that look like? What is something that I could have done differently? Uh, and the question, why me? Why is this happening to me? Now think about it. Why is that? Why is that happening to me? Even if you ask that question, why is this happening? And how do I learn from what is happening? Why is this so hard? What in me is finding this so hard? Being able to do that self reflection, that self talk is how we get into the deep of who we are and we unpack or unlock that thing that we need to move forward. Self reflection can only happen in silence. At the beginning of this episode, I said this podcast was birthed in silence. I had to go through a breakup for 3 months and I was alone in silence. For a few years, I had a dream to be a podcaster and it never took off. Why? Because I was surrounded by noise. Even though I accessed moments of silence, the silence was actually deafening because I had so much of noise and just so much going on. The pure silence was just small little snippets. When silence is created, or when it was created, I began to have conversations with myself in those 3 months. Was the silence golden or deafening? Is your silence golden or deafening? And questions that I ask myself is, what do you want to do, Chloe? How will you fill your time? What can you do? What is something that you've desired to do and you haven't had an opportunity to do as yet? How do you want to make your life count? How do you want to make your life matter, Chloe? Those were questions I asked. But if I had not created the golden silence, I would not have been able to ask those questions and I would not have been able to reflect. I looked at dreams. I looked at some of the dreams that I'd written down. And then I asked myself the question, do you want to give podcasts a try? The next question was, okay, who do I need to speak to? Because I didn't know anything about podcasts. How do I get this done? How do I get all of this up and running again? Is silence golden or deafening? I had a vision. So you want to talk about your vision to yourself. You want to write it down because when I was in the silence, I had to go and look at what are some things that I wanted to do. I wrote it down. So write it down. Make some plans for it. Start talking about it. I don't know how to live without dreaming. I write down my dreams, I plan them, I talk about it to myself, I talk about it to others throughout the journey. Because when we talk about something, often those thoughts or ideas become embedded in our thinking. We start creating, we start innovating, we start getting ideas about what we'd like to do. Self talk happens around those ideas and thoughts that we talk about with others. So if you're only thinking about the past or the present and what's not going well, then that's all you're focused on. When thinking about your past, instead of knocking yourself down about when things don't work out, ask yourself, how can I take this lesson forward so I don't repeat the same thing again? Or what could I have done differently then? Why didn't this work out? What would have been better? Remember the movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray had to do that same lesson over and over and over again until he got it right? Is silence golden or deafening. So that was when I think about the past. So when thinking about your present, ask yourself, am I enjoying this moment right now? Because this moment right now is a gift to you, it's a gift to me. Once this moment right now is over, we can never get it back. No matter what we do, we can never repeat something that has already happened. So what can you do for yourself in this moment? Can you make this silence golden? Or do you want the silence to be so deafening that you cannot hear your thoughts? What do you want to do with the silence? So you can determine what this moment is for you. This moment happens only once, now. When thinking about the future, are you in self fulfilling prophecy mode? What do you see about your future? Is it good? Are you speaking good things? Are you speaking bad things? Are you speaking positive things? Are you speaking negative things? Are you hopeful? Do you feel hopeless? Is silence golden? Are you taking that moment of silence to think about what do I want my future to be? Where's the dream? Think about the dream. Hold on to your dream. Hold on to the vision. Hold on to things that are hopeful and create a world around that versus a silence deafening. Is so much of noise that you cannot access the good thing, the good future. What you do with the silence determines the future you will experience. And like I always end, your story is changing, and you are the storyteller of your story. And this is the story of now. This is the story of tomorrow, next week, next month, your future. You can change your future by the story you tell yourself today. Your story are your thoughts. Who you're becoming are your thoughts. Here's something that I always like to say as well. What you tell your brain is what your brain remembers. And here's what really matters. Who you are becoming is greater than who you were before this moment. What is one thing that has come out of silence in your life? What is one thing that has come out of golden silence in your life when silence was golden? I'm excited about continuing this conversation for the next few episodes. Why? Because powerful declarations live inside of you and they are waiting to be manifested. So please, if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead, just click the like button. And next week, we have another great episode for you. Here's what we're going to be talking on: how to hack your thoughts. Let me say that again. Next week, get ready for a fantastic, great episode on how to hack your thoughts. See you soon.